Welcome back to the Gotham and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Vince. Hopefully you're doing well out there. I know I am. If you're first time listening, don't forget to follow the podcast and like the podcast wherever you're doing it. Don't forget to rate it on whatever, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I appreciate that. Head over to gotham-database.com for our website where there's going to be articles about DC Heroes, Batman the role-playing game, and other things, stuff I've been building in the background and just, kind of thinking about. Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Usually I talk about something like, a book or a ruling or something. Well, actually, it's going to be about a ruling. I had received an email from one of my YouTube viewers over on youtube.com about a ruling for DC Heroes 3rd Edition. He wanted some advice. Now, I didn't get permission to get his name, so I'm going to leave the name out for those purposes, but I will read the description and the general issue and the power itself, and I want you guys to listen and think about what you would do after what I tell you what I do. And you can also comment and tell me about how the situation went if you had to rule this game. So it goes something like this. Recently I started a campaign and I have a question regarding the invisibility power. I know how it's used, auto power that can be turned on before combat. However, I have a player that uses it every single phase of combat, rendering most of my villains and minions useless. I'm most likely forgetting something, or I've been incorrect on how I've allowed the player to use it in-game. An example of how the initiative-based score, and he typically wins 9 times out of 10 when it comes to that. Start of Phase 1, player activates Invisibility, wins initiative, and then they attack. Start of Phase 2, player activates Invisibility, wins initiative, and they attack. Phase 3, player activates Invisibility, wins initiative, and they attack first. Repeat over until the combat is basically over and his villains are basically dead in the water, so to speak. So, looking at the power of Invisibility on page 47 of the core rulebook, DC Heroes 3rd Edition. Now, I'm assuming that the person that emailed is playing DC Heroes 3rd Edition, or at least 2nd Edition for that matter. 1st Edition, I know the powers were a little bit similar, but I don't really play 1st Edition, and no offense to anybody else out there, but I moved to either Batman or 3rd Edition. Anyway, on page 47, it goes over the power. This power allows the character to become impossible to detect with one sense, usually sight. The sense that the character is invisible must be chosen when the power is purchased. Sight, hearing, smell, taste. It gives you an example of what you want to do. Most people are going to pick invisibility for sight and everything like that. When the character activates this power, he becomes impossible to locate with a normal sense to which he is invisible. Special perception powers may be used to locate invisible characters by making an action check. It goes over how that is used. Characters without perception powers may also attempt to locate invisible characters with their other senses, but it is much more difficult. And then it goes on to tell you about how it works by character there. Attempting to guide an attack with a normal sense other than sight is extremely difficult, and it gives you the column shifts for that. Characters are automatically surprised, see page 105 talking about surprise rules, when initially attacked by the undetected invisible opponents. Immediately after being attacked, the target may attempt to locate the invisible character using the appropriate method. Blah, 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 blah. This power may be purchased with special bonuses that extend the invisibility to other senses, and it goes on for that. And it gives you an example that Martian Manhunter has this power. So I was looking over this, and the player is basically getting a little bit more out of the power than is probably intended. And I'm not quite sure how the GM is ruling this, but it's treated as you're turning it on as a free reset button every phase. And you're letting them attack with 0 downsides after doing so. That turns the fight into, I always go first, you can't hit me, haha. Which is not how the power is supposed to feel at the table. Now, we should probably lock down this power just a little bit because obviously it's being abused at the table. And my first instinct would be to talk to the player about this and let them know that you as the GM are having a frustrating time running adventures for them that are going to be fun when everything that the GM throws at the player or players is just easily wiped off the table. While that might be fun to that one player, it may not be fun to the rest of the group and the GM. So generally, talking to players in this situation will probably work out. I was in a situation once in another type of game where I had messed up and given a player a bunch of stuff in a game, and it made him really powerful, and he knew it, and he took it and he used it to his advantage. I was getting frustrated, so I had a conversation with him and be like, listen, we have to, curb this back. I admit my mistake. And he was just like, yeah, I was just waiting for you to wonder when, you made the mistake. And I kind of felt bad after a little while knowing that it was, I could see it was frustrating you. So I eventually was just going to talk to you anyway. And we had a whole conversation back and forth. And we wound up, changing things in agreement to make things fun for both of us. And I'm glad because it was a good time there. Anyway, so back to this. Anyhow, so I gave the GM in question a couple different options, and I said if you turn option one, I put if you turn invisible on your phase, this is your action. No attacks allowed. You can only move. I don't know how he handles his games. I allow in my games players to make an action and move. No problem. They can't like double actions like you do in playing D&D or anything. They could just move normally, and then if they have to do a punch or activate a power, I allow them to do that. Option two was if you turn invisible and attack in the same phase, multi-action penalties will apply. And I put in parentheses, this might be the most logical place or logical one to pick because it's kind of what they're doing anyway. So you might as well use this and it'll probably be best in agreement with you and the player. I don't know, it possibly could. Who knows? Maybe that'll work. Option three, let everything stand as is and villains get smarter. I mean, because they always do, even in comics. If you read comics any point in your life and you're playing a superhero game, you probably have read comics at some point. Thugs and villains do get smarter. Villains and thugs will start to spread rumors around one another. Now, at first, you'd get away with it pretty easily. As, they get their butts beaten, thrown in jail or whatever, or they get away, and then they're going to be like, spreading rumors behind one another. Hero always comes at us invisible. We need to get something that'll show us how to see him next time. Maybe they'll grab some infrared goggles or thermal body goggles or something like that. Again, the common street thug probably won't have access, but the more important ones will definitely more of your big bads or something will probably have this. And over time, even he'll have his minions have these things too. Other than those options that I said he can consider, say you don't have like any of those options there, or maybe you do like one of them and just want a little bit more. Villains will start, or thugs start doing area of attacks or spray attacks. They fill the hallway with the lead, just spraying it back. They toss grenades. They sweep the room, things like that. Hearing, they stop, they listen. I mean, invisible is still going to breathe. You're still going to make footsteps, sounds, and you're going to probably say things even if you don't want to. You're going to hear grunts and things like that. So you can kind of hone in using other. Again, it's going to be negatives, but there's something you can do. Environment also plays a big part in this. Now, if they're outside having a battle and it's raining, you are going to see a shape, even if invisible, in the rain. The rain does not go through an invisible person, it bends around. So right there, you can see an object standing in front of you. If there's dust and smoke, those things will also, happen. You'll see maybe curtains moving in a room if they're run by it, water splashing as they go through puddles. I don't know. As I was typing this email up, I started thinking of other things that what thugs would do, like minor, whatever minions would do. And yeah, they wouldn't have access to the thermal goggles and stuff like that all the time because they probably don't have a lot of money, and that's why they're thugs. But villains can look at your invisible hero and try to locate them with flour. Villains would be like, oh no, hero, blah, 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 always comes at us. Oh, I just got punched in the face. It must be that, hero, quick, grab the powder or flour or whatever. And they start tossing it around to try to figure out where you are located. And I think that's kind of a smart plan. Even if it is dumb thugs, they're going to eventually talk to one another and do this. They'll throw it on the ground. You get to see footprints on the ground. They'll toss it in the air. The powder comes down. Your hero is covered. he has to take a round or two to try to clear it off. I don't know. That's your decision how you want to do that. But I don't think overall a player should be doing what he is describing in his games. I think that's a little unfair and not a lot of fun, to be honest. And I understand that that's how players work, and you as a GM have to work around these things. So that's kind of where I left it with him in the email. I haven't received a response yet, and sometimes people are busy and it takes them a little while to respond. But I wanted to talk about this because I thought it was an interesting episode for people out there, kind of like a GM advice episode for the Gotham Database podcast, or Gotham and Beyond podcast, as we renamed it. So hopefully that puts some perspective into the power a little bit, talk about the power itself. So we kind of got a twofold thing going on here today of the power itself, exploring the power and how it would be used real time in a game. And if you have a player that does do things like this, which I'm sure a lot of people do, I've given you some ideas how to get around it as a GM without becoming like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the term. I guess it's like an overbearing GM or a cheating GM. I'm not sure, but you're using things that would be logical in game that would make sense. Villains having thermal goggles, okay, not everyone's going to have it, but the big bad, yeah, he's going to have it after a while because he's going to know it's you. Thugs throwing powder and flour around, that really does make sense, especially if they're starting to spread rumors. This guy's an invisibility fighter. We got to, make sure you guys keep a little sack of powder on your belt and when we're doing this heist, because you never know when this jerk's going to show up and we need to toss it out there. That's logical. That's not cheating. That's just villains and thugs getting smarter over time. Now, I just want to say if it's the first time, no, that's not going to happen. The second time, probably still not going to happen. Third or fourth time, they're going to start, rumors are going to start spreading. Maybe you can roll on a chart in the background, the percentile thing. I don't know, maybe you can do like a rumors thing, like every time a battle happens, you can add like a 10% chance that they start spreading rumors, and there's a cumulative 10%, and then you roll. If you get under that number, then the villains start spreading it around to one another, and they start realizing this, so when they move forward, they have these options. These are just ways that I'm trying to, spitball out for GMs out there to handle this power. Now, you've been listening to this for the past 15 minutes. Tell me in your comments, if you want to email me, go to the website, gotham-database.com, or I believe we have a pretty good email address you can get us at. Let me just pull that up right now while I'm thinking about it. It is the, let's see here, gothamdatabase@gmail.com is our email address. You can email me there and tell me what you think, how you would rule this. I'm really interested to hear other GM's opinions or what they're proposing for this. I always love hearing that. Always love feedback. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We have a YouTube channel as well. This goes to Gotham Database or Gotham Beyond Podcast on YouTube. Anyway, I'm going to head out. Keep it original. Keep it old school. Good night and God bless everybody.